Hi, everybody, and welcome to Conversations with Geoff. It's Friday, beautiful Friday here, and man, we are excited about the opportunity, as always, to come speak to you, right? And today, man, we got somebody in store for you that's just going to lay you out. It's going to be amazing how all this going to come together. So I welcome everyone. Make sure when you come in, you tell us who you are, where you're coming from, and make sure you're sharing this information and liking it with folks. Because the message is really, for us, Conversations with Geoff is about providing a message of hope, inspiration, and life-changing transformation, right? I mean, all the things going on in the world, we wanted to be able to give people a place to come and where they can just kind of just take a deep breath, man, and close off all the clutter, right? Get all that noise out of their head and remember what life is all about: family, health, chasing your dream, man, making your work count, your time count, right? So, I mean, that's who we are, and this is why we're here. But I want to say motivation is short-lived. Transformation is forever, baby, right? So you're not going to leave here rah, rah, rah. You're going to leave here with some real nuggets that you can take and put into your life right away. And so our speaker is going to be able to share that stuff with you, right? So as a real estate investor, I'm known as the king of rehabs. And rebuilding structures, but we also now want to move into the space of mindset rehab, right? So that's kind of how I want you to think about it today. We all are going to work on resetting our mind, recreating, resetting, and going after life, right? So it's going to be a fun and exciting conversation today. For those of you that are new, welcome. Those of you that have been supporting us, we appreciate you, baby. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, well, let me do this. Let me go ahead and just kind of give you a quick bio of our guest speaker today. Man, this lady she got it going on, boy. So, but I want to just kind of give you a quick background on her. It's Melanie Scott-Bennet, Esquire. She was born to, Dr. and Mrs. Leonard Scott. She was 6 of 7 children, born in the Midwest, Indiana native, and really just loving life as a child. And now she's grown up, lady of success. And hey, Steph, a lady of success. And she's currently working as Associate General Counsel at Peloton Interactive. She leads their legal product team. And prior to that, she was out working with Microsoft and as their corporate counsel and supporting big business. That's all I can tell you. Do a lot of amazing things out there. And what's exciting to watch her and hear her is that, she took her 13 years of legal experience and 19 years of business acumen and really is living out what a lot of people wish they could do, right? I mean, she is living her passion. Melanie is about innovative thinking and creativity and strategies, and she's taken those skills and has led to transformative deals, right? And product launches that spread in industry verticals from entertainment to technology. That's a broad space, man. I mean, this lady is doing it, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, and you think this is a long time she's been around. She's still a baby, right? So anyway, I want to just kind of just tell you a little shift in her life, though, right? Everything's soaring, everything's going great. But in 2013, she was informed that, she has, been stricken by, life-threatening leukemia. And the only saving thing would be a stem cell transplant. And she's going to tell us all about that, so I'm not going to go into the details, but I want to tell you, I want to share a quote with you. She said, when cancer came kicking her door down, she took the hinges off the door, baby, and stepped over defeat. Ooh, right? I mean, this is who we're talking to. I mean, Melanie is the definition of a woman warrior. And she is a passionate and creative storyteller. She's asked to speak all over the place to share her story. So we're going to get a chance to get the inside pits, baby, on her memoirs through it all. So with no further ado, if you will allow me to bring to the stage today our guest, powerful young lady, Melanie Scott-Bennet. Hey, Mel. How are you?
Hello. I'm good. How are you doing?
Oh, man, I'm lighting up now. I see that big, bright smile. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So thank you again for, excuse me, carving out some time to be with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm going to kind of get right to it because I know you're busy and we don't have a certain amount of time. And I got a lot of questions. And excuse me for coughing. I'm kind of getting over a little virus and all that stuff. So,
All right, as long as you don't have the coronavirus.
I don't have it anymore. I had it. It's like my granddaughter said, Pop, you got the corona. So, but the grace of God, I'm standing here today.
Amen. Amen. That's good.
I'm grateful to be here. So, but Mel, I was going through your bio and I know your history and all that. And when I heard 6 or 7 kids, made me think about us way back then. And I know we don't have much time. Tell me how it was being in a family of 5 or 6 and 6 or 7 and a lot of kids. And how was it, man? Because you just live a happy life.
Yeah, so growing up as one of 7 was always an adventure, I'd say. Never a dull moment. And I actually really enjoyed growing up in a big family, having 4 brothers, 2 sisters, all there. As you can imagine, there was our fair share of fighting. But it's interesting. My dad likes to say all of us have very different personalities. Yeah. So you have a group of people who, even though we were all raised in the same house, all have completely different personalities. So of course that can lend itself to a bunch of, joke playing and, teasing and all of the things. But ultimately it was a lot of love, a lot of warmth. We grew up in a traditionally Christian household, and we spent a lot of time at church. Okay. Our uncle, which is, your uncle as well, he was the pastor of a church that we all attended. And we spent probably just as much time at church as we did at home. Gotcha. There was obviously, church on Sunday, but it wasn't just one service. So we'd have 2 or 3 services on Sunday. Monday was prayer. Tuesday was choir rehearsal. Wednesday was Bible study. Thursday was like missionaries night. And then Friday was youth night. And so Saturday was like Bible Bowl and all of the other rehearsals. And then Sunday you're back at church. Yeah. So we spent a lot of time staying active, where I think traditionally, families that are that large have people that they're running around to different sports and going to cheerleading and going to basketball and all those things. We were routed back and forth to church, every activity, Girl Scouts church, basketball church. So it made for an easier transportation path, but it also meant that, we were between really 2 homes, our home and at church. Yeah.
Well, I see that in you, and then, that's part of the story that's going to come up a little bit later on how important that life was for you and the foundation you got and all those other things. And, I know you and how was you were a little spoiled. You were the last one. Can you say maybe you 2 were spoiled more than the rest?
I don't know if we were. At the end of the day, I would say out of all of our siblings, maybe the youngest one was the most spoiled. Because I think at that point, my parents were tired of parenting. They said, we give up. No. I think we were all very loved, very, and I think there's a really interesting course that a guy named Chris DeSantis does called Generational Diversity. And I think it's interesting when you have boomers, Gen Xers, millennials, all in the same household. And so I think there's just kind of a different upbringing, how people were raised, et cetera, just based on that. But ultimately, I think we were all cared for. But I do think that the youngest was probably the most spoiled in a sense, because all of the whoopings had been doled out.
So mom and dad were just a little bit tired and said, okay.
And then give her over to the Lord. I just, I don't know.
Oh, I love that. So I'm going to look up the book, Generational Diversity. Sounds like an interesting tool. Yeah. So, and I love that piece of it. So, all right. So you you got through all this stuff, you know, and we're going to kind of just, when was it that you said, oh man, I want to become a lawyer and spend hours and hours and hours in school? How did that come about?
Yeah, so when I first when I was in high school, I was pretty sure that I was going to become an artist. And I had determined that that's what I wanted to do. And I had applied for art schools. And I'd actually gotten into an art school that I really, really loved and got a scholarship to go there.
Wow.
And I remember going down for the pre-orientation. My grandmother drove me and my sister, one of my sisters down there, she went with me. And I was super excited, but I only had a partial scholarship. I didn't have the full scholarship, and I wasn't going to be able to afford the portion for living, the housing essentially to stay. I only applied to like a couple other non-art schools because I just knew I was going to go to art school. But because I didn't have enough money to do so, I ended up going to one of the other schools that I applied to that was going to have, that I did get a scholarship for, and that I was going to be able to have, be able to work my way through school essentially, and be able to pay for the housing. And so I ended up going to an undergraduate school close to where I was born and raised, in a state school. So again, reduced tuition. I was able to work. I had worked 3 jobs while I was going, but I learned from that experience very quickly that I probably wasn't going to become an artist. I was just, I was taking courses and curriculum that were kind of outside of the scope of what I thought that major was going to be. And so I pivoted pretty quickly into changing my major a couple of times. And if I can say anything to anyone, like any young person who's going to college, the percentage of people who change their majors in college is very high. It's like it's up there. I don't have the exact number, but it's definitely I know it's around 75%, if not more. And I think college was a good experience for me to be able to explore what I was interested in, understand who I was as not just a child, but as an adult. It was my first foray into independence, or quasi independence in a way. And so I learned a lot from that experience that ultimately drove me to want to pursue law. And I went home like between my junior and senior year of college, and had a conversation with my dad, about the future trajectory of my career and my life, et cetera. And you probably hear him a lot as I'm talking, because I consider him to be one of my my mentors, somebody, a wise sage that I can always go get some sound advice from.
Absolutely.
And I remember him telling me that, as I was exploring career ideas and the thought of law school and what I wanted to do, and we didn't have any lawyers in our immediate family or anybody that I could go talk to and say, hey, how's it feel to be a lawyer, or anything like that. And I remember him telling me that I wasn't necessarily designed to be at the same level as him. His father had told him that he wasn't designed to be at the same level as he was. The entire point was that you would be building up on the shoulders of your parents. And he said, so I don't ever want you to limit yourself in thinking that there's sort of this, if I just match what my parents are doing, I'll be okay. He said, I want you to be able to build even in uncharted territory, so that you are building beyond where I am and beyond where your grandfather was. And so ultimately that was the spark I needed to say, you know what, I don't necessarily know much about this space, but I can achieve it. I can do it. So with that, I went ahead and applied to law schools, and took my LSAT, which is the course that you need to take to get into law school, and ended up again pursuing education at a school that allowed or afforded me a scholarship. And for anybody who did not come from a rich family that had a trust fund for you to go to school, it's okay. It's okay to have to work a couple of jobs to get through things. It's okay to not have it all. apply for those scholarships, apply for opportunities, apply for grants, because that's what they're designed for. And I was fortunate to be able to get some of those. And I enrolled in a program in Indiana specifically, because that's where I was at the time, called ICLEO, and that's Indiana Council for Legal Educational Opportunity. They have a national CLEO, which that I'm associated with as being a part of, the one that I did in Indiana. And it's specifically designed for minority or non-traditional law students, so that you can get the same sort of, be afforded the same level up as maybe others who are known more to be able to have a background or have family members or be positioned to be more successful in law school. And so I did a pre-program that allowed me to understand how would they test in law school, how to read or go through briefs, and how to take notes and really be successful, because law school is very different than undergrad. And when you go to law school, everybody's smart. So you're not just being judged against, you're being judged against other very smart people, and you're getting graded against those other very smart people. So how do you become successful in doing that if that's not how you're used to working or studying, as well as, if you're not used to testing in a certain kind of way?
Sure.
So that is what drove me to kind of go there. And then once I got to law school, I knew this is definitely what I wanted to do.
This is it. This is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
And Matt, I just have a question for you. And thank you for sharing this story here. I want to, you talked about your dad standing on the shoulders of your parents, and your parents obviously, your dad has been through some things and has earned the title of a very successful, not only mentor for folks like us, but businessman, and done some tremendous things. And still, he gets younger every year. I tell him, I said, you get younger every year. I'm following your footsteps, right? But so I'm bringing it back because it wasn't there. You were the shoulders were high already, somewhat, and you stood on top of them, right? So that you don't speak about that. It was just like, I just decided, okay, I'll do this and be better. But you had some high shoulders to get to.
Yeah.
And yet and still you didn't let that stop you.
No, it was a stimulation for encouragement. At the end of the day, I feel fortunate to be a part of the family that I am. And I will also say, a word about my mom as well, who's also very, strong force in our home.
Yes.
She would tell me when I was younger, because I like to argue. Let's go back to remember the dynamic of our household. I like to argue that I was like to argue because I would debate on whether I should get a whooping or not. She used to say, Melanie, you're going to be a judge one day, because you just, and I don't know how she correlated a judge with arguing, but I think she, in law was where she was.
Yeah, absolutely.
But she was a very strong proponent of education overall, right? As well as, and she was an educator herself. She was a teacher.
Yes.
And so I think both of those, seeing my parents and seeing, again, my father as a successful business person as well, inspired me. And I do really believe that, and I say this really about our children, about our youth, about the Black community, that you dream as far as you are exposed to.
Hey, right? Yes.
And so we need to expose our children, our young adults, our youth to career opportunities and just opportunities in general with people who look like us, right? Yeah. And have them understand, like, yes, you can be X, Y, and Z. Yes, you can do X, A, B, and C. Yeah. And then not even know, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that was a thing, right? Yeah. I didn't even know that was a possibility. Yeah. And it's good because we have now so many more representations in law, whether it's judges. There's still a lot of work to be done. Let me be clear.
Yes.
But, you at least have like a judge or a lawyer or a dentist or a doctor or a teacher. There's still not enough. But where are those areas where you are an air traffic controller,
Yeah.
or where you are a cybersecurity professional,
Yes.
or, and so there are so many opportunities that I think we could continue to expose people, specifically minorities too, so
Yeah.
that they can see that, again, you can build up on the laurels of things, and
Yes.
you can dream and achieve
Yes.
what was impossible before, now that you've been exposed to it.
Exposure is so key. I mean, my wife talks about it all the time. We have 3 grandbabies. She said our mission is to expose and overexpose, and and so I love what you're sharing there, and you're living proof. And that's why we wanted to have you on here, because we want other people to see that it can be done, and it's not a normal person, a beautiful young person that's doing great things. So thank you for that. And I interrupted the part where you got there and you said, "Oh, this is me." I'm gonna talk about that for a minute, and then we'll move into.
Yeah, so I think everybody probably remembers where they were on September 11th. I was in our university's newsroom, essentially, because I was at the time a journalism major. I was a journalism, media, and communications major. And I was also the student member on the University Board of Trustees. And it was through that period and through that time period, and as I was talking through, again, the decision with my dad, that I knew that I wanted to pursue a very specific piece of law. And so when I got to law school and I was able to take those courses, which were around media, they were around technology, they were around entertainment. And at the time, the term technotainment didn't even exist.
Didn't even know.
And so, but I knew my proclivity for an interest in the technology world intertwined with media was where I wanted to go, whether those were intellectual property issues, whether those were right of publicity issues. I knew that that was the area that I was going to be in.
Wow.
So from there, law school is not easy. So there were definitely times where I was like, why am I doing this to myself? But I will say that I was fortunate to be in a position where, again, I had the opportunity to be with Clio, and they helped prepare me with the tools that I needed to be successful in law school. So that was really, really great. Yeah. And so from there, I went ahead and applied, for, summer internships, et cetera. I also did a international stint abroad, doing international entertainment law, to get some more background there so I could have more of a global perspective. Wow. And, all in all, I thought about that time just like I would, anything else that you want. You're going to have to go through the process. You're going to have to go through the training in order to get to ultimately, what you want to do. And so I tried to just kind of keep a positive, mind about it and continue to work through it. But one of definitely the hardest educational times that I had was through law school.
Yeah. I got to tell you, I was joking with my wife this morning because I always wanted to be, telling my age a little bit, I always wanted to be Perry Mason, right? I thought Perry was a cool dude. My mom loved him, so I thought the law school was it. And I admire those of you who go through that process, because I looked at the pre-test and all those other things, and needless to say, it just didn't fit for me. So I lived that experience through you now, right? So I mean, because I know the work involved, and I know the struggles that I went through as a business major, let alone what you're talking about. So kudos to you, and the way to grind it out. I mean, that's what I'm hearing in your message.
Yeah.
For sure. And so, I better kind of, can we move away from that for a minute, Mel? Because I thank you for sharing, and I really want to kind of reach back into that whole part of 2013 now, because through it all, we have the author of Through It All, and tells the story. So, I mean, can we peel it back a minute and, open the door for us and into your life, and everything. I was like, man, crap, everything's going great, and then this happens. How was that for you?
Yeah, so at the time, in 2013, I was in Florida. I had a job at a corporation there, and I'd actually relocated from Chicago to Florida. And really great job, really great company. And I ended up experiencing some shortness of breath. And so let's say I'm sitting here talking to you, and all of a sudden I just start gasping for air.
Wow.
It seemed a bit abnormal because I had just had my annual checkup in October and I was fine. And, I've never had any health issues besides a minor cold,
Yeah.
chicken pox when I was younger. But, other than that, good, healthy person.
Mm.
And so my fiance, who was now my husband at the time, was very much like, yo, you need to go get this checked out. And I just kind of like, oh, I'm good. Like, I'm sure it's nothing. I'm just working really hard and I'm sure I'm fine.
Yeah.
And it became increasingly persistent. And I was like, okay, maybe I should go back in.
Mm.
So I went back to my doctor to get some blood work drawn and went about my normal routine.
Mm.
And then I remember that the doctor's office called me back and said, hey, we need you to come in so we can talk through your results. Well, I was at work at the time and I was kind of like, okay, I'll come in. And again, I've never been sick, so I really didn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
And then they called again the next day and like, hey, we really need you to come in. And I was like, all right, fine. I'll come in during my lunch break and, we'll square this away.
Yes.
And so I had left work that day and I said, all right, guys, I'll see you this afternoon and go get my blood work. And the I see you later never happened.
Never happened. Wow.
I went into the doctor and she showed me 2 sheets of paper. On one side was my blood work from October. And on the other side was my blood work from January, because that's what the time was at this point in time.
Mm.
And they were drastically different. And I didn't know what it meant. And she wasn't very clear on what that meant either. But she had some deep concerns and wanted to consult with a hematologist. I didn't know what a hematologist was. So I said, you know what, this is great. We'll schedule an appointment with this hematologist person. I'm going to go get lunch because I'm hungry at this point. And maybe I'll just take off the rest of the day because I'm also pretty tired because I was experiencing also some deep fatigue.
Yeah.
And so she came back into the room because she called the hematologist and she told me, I can't let you leave. And that gave me immediate alarm because I was like, okay, you know how sometimes we can be, us people of melanin skin, we just take a nap and drink some water, we'll be all right. We'll be all right. So I said, well, I just go home and take a nap. I'll be okay. And so please don't ignore the signs. Do better. Don't do than me. But either way it goes, she wouldn't let me go. She said, you don't have basically enough platelets to survive. You are internally bleeding. And I had bruises on my body, but I thought I just bumped into stuff and forgot I was being clumsy. And so I immediately called my parents and, I'm a little scared at this point because this is like, wow. And, she's telling me I don't have enough platelets to survive. And if I go home and fall asleep, I could just not wake back up because I'm bleeding internally. And so she admitted me immediately into the emergency room, which wasn't far away. It was across from her clinic. And I stayed in the hospital and they ended up admitting me overnight because they just couldn't figure out what was going on. The next day, I called my work, said, hey guys, I think I'm gonna be out for a little bit. Something's going on. I'll keep you posted. But I remember I have all my work stuff with me. So I'm like, I have no clothes from my house. Like I'm just like stuck in this weird world. Right.
Yeah.
And so that day passes by. They still couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. On that Thursday morning, I'll never forget it. I was praying. It was about 6 a.m. because, when you're in the hospital, there are people coming in and out at all times. They were giving me blood transfusions and I actually felt fine. I was like, oh, I'm feeling better than I've felt in months. Like, I can go home. Yeah. And I remember clear as day, I'm in the room by myself praying. And I heard this voice say, it's going to get worse, but you already have the victory. And so I popped my eyes open because I'm like, who walked into the room?
Yeah, wow.
Nobody there. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I realized, I was like, oh, okay, this must be God telling me this. Wow. And sure enough, not less than 30 seconds later, my primary care physician came in And she walked into the room and she sat on the side of my bed. She said, I wanted to be the first to tell you before I walk into my clinic that you have something called leukemia. And you're about to have, a lot of doctors come in and talk to you about what needs to happen, et cetera. Here's my cell phone number. We'll walk through it. Let me know if you have any questions. And so that was immediately the alarm. I called my parents. I called my fiance. I called everybody. And sure enough, my room became a revolving door of doctors telling me ultimately that I had something called acute lymphoblastic leukemia,
Wow.
Philadelphia chromosome positive. And so I went through a very long journey of my life being completely interrupted. And as you mentioned, I wrote a book about it. I was able to overcome it because just like that word that I heard, that I already had the victory, I did. It was a very long road. And so you're seeing me today in a very different state than I was when I first got that news. But I did. I ended up writing a memoir about it and through it all, which I can show here on the screen.
Yes.
But all is for acute lymphoblastic leukemia, ALL. And so it was quite the journey. And I do want to encourage anyone who is facing or being diagnosed with something that is just completely out of the blue. It is scary. It can be overwhelming. It can be shocking. You may go through all the stages of grief, as they say.
Yes.
But I am so fortunate to be sitting here and talking to you today. And I consider that only through my faith, through my family, and through the care that I received, that I'm here today to talk about it and tell you about it.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I'm sending you a virtual hug from Texas this afternoon, and I wrote down what the words you shared. It's going to get worse, but you already have the victory.
Yes.
And I mean, it was so real because you were looking around saying, where'd the voice come from?
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that time in my life, I learned a lot of lessons, and those lessons is what I put, like I said, in the book. And I wrote them down. I remember my mom telling me that I was going to have a testimony. And so to begin to journal and write these things down, and my aunt Barbara would tell me, oh, you should take pictures. And of course, who wants to take this is like the worst situation that could happen. And so you're like, oh no, I don't want to take
pictures, right?
Write this cancer journey down. And but as a result of that, I was able to pull from those notes and pull from some of those visuals to even write what I wrote today. And I also have to provide a little bit of context. Like, I was a young adult. Like, I just turned 30.
Yeah.
So I was in no position to think that this could happen to me.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any health issues. My family, I didn't have a history of this in my family.
Yeah.
And so it was presumably, which is why it took so long for them to figure out what was actually going on. And so those moments can be daunting because you can feel like maybe you're alone and that no one else, because you're in a hospital room with other, older people or little children, right? Like, so very, small children or older people, and you can kind of feel alone. And
wow,
I was fortunate to be connected throughout this process with a young adult cancer group. And that also was very helpful because it made me feel, now we weren't a large group, let me be clear, thank God. But those of us who are going through it, because we were at the age of on the verge, we're on the verge of getting married, on the verge of even though I was, I had my career, but I was more in the early stages of my career, right? So it's kind of like a life interrupted, and we haven't fully had all of our children yet, or lived a full life, and nor are we in the care of like our parents as a child, like where they're taking you on. So you're in this kind of weird spot where you need to need the support to know you're not alone. And so I was fortunate to be connected with the group. And again, the reason why I even wrote the book was because I didn't want anyone else to feel alone either. And I wanted there to be hope for them to realize, like, hey, you can do this. And another reason as well was because I wrote, when I did my blog, which is, you can go onto melstrong.com.
Yes.
I wanted to share and have people participate in my journey, because a lot of what I would do research on, or not even research, but I would try to find like connection somewhere.
Yeah.
There would be pages where a parent was keeping the page alive for their deceased child, or the person was no longer living. And so I said, I want to be a beacon of hope. I'm going to put up this page almost in faith that somebody's going to be able to follow this. They're going to be able to see me, and they're going to be able to know I can live.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're not alone.
You're not alone.
I hear that message throughout your whole space. And I wrote down, you're kind of on the verge, and of a lot of things in life, and something disrupts all of that.
Yeah.
And you looked inward, and you heard the message spiritually, and you were able to take that and now generate this beautiful memoir and the blog that you're talking about, sharing with us, and just man. So we're kind of running out of time, so I want to give you a couple minutes to based how you're feeling from this conversation, and how you may have thought about prior to our meeting. What you dropped so many just powerful little messages and nuggets, but what do you want to say to the male strong of 20 years ago? What message can you say from the male strong you are today that I'm sure would apply to everybody, including me?
So I actually I wrote, it's interesting because I actually wrote in the book, and also on my blog on the website, letter to myself, to my former self, because after everything, and you'll read through the book, after everything, you'll see, this is now Melanie 2.0, as they say.
2.0, baby.
Mel Strong, Melanie 2.0. But
come on, girl.
I would tell everybody here today who's listening or going to listen to the recording, don't quit 5 minutes before the miracle. And the journey can get long. The journey can get hard. However, there is light at that end of the tunnel if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other. I had the opportunity to connect with Coach Chuck Pagano, who was the former Indianapolis Colts coach, who also went through leukemia. And I was actually being treated at one point, because I did have to move. I was being treated at the IU Simon Cancer Center under the same doctor that he was being treated by. But I have a good friend who is in the front office for an NFL team, and he connected with Coach Pagano and kind of connected the two of us. Wow. And I remember his advice to me was, take it one day at a time. Don't try to think about, the weeks ahead or the months ahead. Just stay focused on taking it one day at a time. And so that would be my advice to the former self, but also to those who are listening, is when you find yourself in a situation where perhaps you've gotten a diagnosis, whether it's a cancer diagnosis or another health diagnosis, it could be a COVID diagnosis. Take it one day at a time.
Yes.
And really don't give up, and really be assured that it's going to get better. You just have to keep moving, keep holding on, and you can do it. Yeah. And sometimes people try to take the entirety, they spiral, right? They're like, oh, well, I have this, it could be this. They immediately go to like Dr. Google and all the worst things that can happen. And then they ultimately, they become a self-fulfilling prophecy, because they're just thinking so much on the negative that they haven't had an opportunity to remember
Right.
that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So
Right.
I
Right.
would want to encourage anybody again, and this could be somebody who's also supporting a loved one who might be going through a diagnosis, is to help encourage them
Yes.
that it will get better. There was someone who I've spoken to who had went through a journey. She said, when one person in your family has cancer, the whole family has it. It's not something that you
Yeah.
do alone. Like, it impacts everyone around you. They care about you. They love you. And
Absolutely.
so I think it's important for them to stay encouraged as well. And
Yeah.
so that they can surround that person with positivity
Yeah.
and encouragement and uplift them and help them and motivate them, because
Yeah.
they will be able to get through it.
Yeah, man, that was just wow. That's amazing message. I mean, you hit on so many things and the power of thought, and then not only yourself but those around you bringing the energy. And I want to say thank you again for taking the time out and sharing all your experiences. And I can't wait to get the book. I've heard it's awesome. So tell us again, how can we order the book?
Yeah, sure. So it is available on my website if you want an autographed copy. So that's mailstrong.com. But you can also get it at barnesandnoble.com as well as amazon.com or my publisher, westbowpress.com, through it all. And so those links are in my social media profile. So if you are on social media, I am I spend most of my time on Instagram if I am on social media, and my Instagram handle is Mel_strong.
Yes.
But you can also catch me over on Facebook as well under official Mel Strong. So, and those links are also on my website. So please, friend me or follow me. I definitely provide updates on my Instagram page frequently, and on my Facebook page as well. So would love to interact if you're on social.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm reading a couple of the chats and read the book and loved it. It was one from Renee, and it was a very good book from Steph, and just, like I said, I can't wait to read it. And they've shared a little bit. So Mel, boy, I keep you forever, but I promise not to do that. Oh, and I just want to say from the bottom of our heart here at Conversations with Geoff, and for those listening now and those that are going to listen later, make sure you pass this message on and share this message for as many people as you can. No more genuine can we receive the message from what we heard today. Sincere and living proof. Living proof to, what is it? Don't quit 5 minutes before the miracle, baby. Come on. That's what I'm talking about. And so thank you. Any last parting words before we send you on your way?
I don't think so. I just want to again thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure talking with you. Thank you for allowing me to share my story. And again, I welcome and invite everyone to check mailstrong.com out if you want to read through my journey. I have some blogs, blog articles there, and you can also pick up the book as well. But I want to just again say thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome, man. And I got to tell you, go check it out, because I do that. And you had a lot of exciting stuff. You do a lot of different fun things, man. We can come back and talk about that again, because you just have so much to give and so much to share. We love you here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mel Strong, baby. Hey, woman warrior. Ha! We will talk again soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, hey, I'm seeing I may have some image problems here. I don't know if you guys can see me. The sun has played a trick on me. And so here I am now. Let me see if I can work something out here. Yes. Okay. Well, just to wrap it up, I told you Oh man, Mel Strong, baby. Don't forget that. Go check her stuff out. And I hope today leaves you, as our whole mission is about, going to help you take what you heard. You know, motivation is short-lived, transformation is forever. Take what she said, never give up, keep grinding, know that you are meant for more, no matter how you feel today. And share this message with as many folks as you can. And thanks to everybody for taking the time out. It's a busy Friday to join that. And stay tuned, baby. Conversations with Geoff. I'm getting ready to say bye-bye for now. And thanks again. Take a look at the link in there for all her information. Bye-bye.